Can we have it quiet for just? Can we have it quiet for just 1 minute? We have some housekeeping to do. Okay. Can I have a motion to adjourn the closed meeting?
I make a motion to adjourn the closed meeting.
Second? Second by Member Trinka. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. We're adjourned. All right, I would like to call the meeting to order. Oh, I can go. Yes.
Wow.
Oh, thank you. I would like to call the meeting of May 15th, 2018 of the Duluth School Board to order. Member Sanson, can you call the roll, please?
I can. All right. Member Gorham. Chair Kirby.
Here?
Member Loeffler-Kemp.
Here.
Member Lofold.
Here.
Member Oswald.
Here.
I am here. Member Trinka.
Here.
Superintendent Gronseth.
Here.
Assistant Superintendent Starzecki.
Here.
Deputy Clerk Hassler. Here. Secretary Dolans.
Here.
Secretary Thibault.
Here.
And Student Rep Carlos.
Here.
And Student Rep White. Thank you. Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Would you stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Approval of the agenda. Next on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to do so?
So moved.
Moved by Member Loeffler-Kemp. Second?
Second.
Seconded by Member Sanson. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Then it is approved. Next is approving our minutes, the first of the school board meeting of April 17th. Do I have a motion to accept those as written?
So moved.
Moved by Member Trinka, second. Seconded by Member Lofold. Any discussion on those? Then all in favor of accepting those minutes of April 17th as written, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Those are approved as written. And next, our special closed session of April 18th. Is there a motion to approve these minutes?
So moved.
Moved by Member Lofold. Second? Second by Member Gorham. Any discussion on this? Seeing none, all in favor of accepting those minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Then they are accepted unanimously. Thank you. Next, we have school and community recognition. Come on down. There we go.
Good evening. Tonight, members of the board, this month we are recognizing the work of the Duluth Public Schools Endowment Fund. From the Board of Trustees for the fund, please welcome Ken Schoen, Chair, and Al Chapalnik, Vice Chair. From the Duluth Superior Area Community Foundation, please welcome Holly Sampson, President, and Michelle Morris, Director of Community Philanthropy. We also invite educators who have written and received grants to come forward. The fund was established in 1984 to gain greater visibility and support for Duluth Public Schools by supporting innovative and creative educational projects. Guided by independent board of civic and business leaders, the fund reviews proposals and recommends grant awards ranging from $500 to $2,000. Over the years, the fund has awarded grants to over 300 educators and enriched our classrooms with over $500,000 in grants. The fund is managed independently through the Community Foundation. Assets continue to grow through generous gifts from local businesses, organizations, and individuals. We appreciate the work of the Board of Trustees and the Community Foundation in supporting this fund. We especially honor and recognize the work of our teachers, principals, and specialists in creating innovative classroom projects, applying for the grants, and implementing those projects. All of you play an important role in enriching the educational opportunities for Duluth students. Thank you so much for your dedication and support. I can't help it.
Thank you very much. Well, we appreciate this honor. This is terrific. The fund has been around for quite a few years. I asked our staff, Hallie's staff, really, to give us some statistics on the background of this fund. Since 2000, year of 2000, 284 grants have been made, totaling $331,000. I think that's significant money. That averages to about $1,200 per grant. And I think it's frankly commendable for teachers to go out of their way to write a proposal to us. And incidentally, we get more proposals than we can fund. So in a sense, that's kind of a sad part of it, because there's some good ones we have to turn down. But we end up with some very plush, well thought out grants. So thank you very much.
Since I'm the assistant chair at the Endowment Fund Committee, I want to let you know that we have 11 members on the board, and I want to name all of them. Ken Chowan is our chairperson. I'm the assistant chair, Al Chapelnik. Sherry Rudd is a retired principal. Mark Bolbin, Bernadette Burnham, Marge Fisher, Kirsty Haller, Rosie Lofter Kemp, and then Phyllis Makala, Steve Schoenbauer, and Cindy Upton. And we have about 7 meetings a year, and I think we had about 21 grants this year. 21 total grants, I believe.
This year, 21, yes it was.
Okay.
Probably about 50 or more applications.
Yeah, so we've had presentations at many of the schools to try to promote them submitting for the grants and that. So thank you very much for your help.
Thank you very much. Next on our agenda is our audience speakers, and I will remind you that each speaker has 3 minutes, and there we go. Yes, and if Jill, Member Lofald, will read our civility tools.
So the community vision and priorities for our Duluth schools are this. We will build on our shared values, our values of unity, high achievement, and responsible use of resources to create Duluth public schools and classrooms that are safe, supportive, and inclusive. We will work to inspire every student to achieve their potential and prepare students to lead productive, fulfilling lives as citizens of Duluth and the wider world. So we have these 11 tools of civility that we work with our students and our community to uphold. This school board recognizes 11 tools of civility that will provide increased opportunities for civil discourse in order to find positive resolutions to the issues that face our community. So these tools include paying attention, listening, being inclusive, not gossiping, showing respect, and being agreeable, apologizing, giving constructive criticism, taking responsibility, being honest and caring for others, and showing our evidence and sharing our reasoning. These are our civility tools.
Thank you. All right. Our first speaker, signed on it, is Betsy West Sherman. Welcome. See, that's on.
Chair Kirby, Superintendent Gronseth, and members of the board. My name is Betsy West Sherman. First of all, I'd like to thank members Lofald and Loeffler-Kemp for their efforts, particularly the conversations that we have had in advance and conversations yet to happen. I would like to thank the board for addressing my concerns and your continued efforts as they relate to school safety and security. Thank you to the members of our community who continue to lobby at the state level for our district. I spoke at the March board meeting and also the March 29th Think Kids event at East High School. At those events, I had asked the district to examine current security procedures and lockdown protocol as they are no longer recommended. Since that time, I've had numerous conversations with parents that have similar concerns. I've met with board members and learned that evaluation of the district's current practice is underway and that improved lockdown measures for all of our schools will be ready in the fall. So thank you. I speak tonight on behalf of the many parents in our area that have concerns regarding the safety and security of our secondary institutions. Of immediate concern is the accessibility into Lincoln, Ordine, and East. The doors into the offices remain unlocked during the school hours. Denfeld is our only secondary institution that has controlled entry. At the Think Kids event on March 29th, this concern was brought to the attention of key board members, and at that time there was discrepancy as to whether or not this was in fact true. The elementary schools in our district keep all entrances secured and locked during the school day. Other than Sandy Hook, all school shootings have occurred at secondary schools. The district does not implement locked and secure access into the offices at Lincoln, Ordine, and East. According to CNN, there have been 17 school-related shootings since the beginning of 2018. This is a horrifying statistic and one that should cause us to take notice and review our district's policies, procedures, and security measures. A rise in mental health issues coupled with the ease of access to firearms has caused an epidemic in our schools. Many schools in the U.S. rely on two reports on security measures, one from the Department of Homeland Security and the other from the National Institute of Building Sciences. These reports outline what are considered best practice for securing schools. One of the main recommendations in those guides is to establish secure entries. I ask that the board continue to be mindful of best practice and remember that implementation of change at one school must be district-wide and include all elementary, middle, and high schools. The doors into the offices must be secured immediately. I am aware that there will be some costs to our already strained budget. However, if we have a catastrophic failure in our school security, how much will that cost the Duluth School District in terms of legal fees for litigation and financial settlements? Not to mention the district's reputation and, more importantly, potential loss of life. If school safety and security isn't on our radar already, then it should be. We are all waiting for Governor Dayton's aid proposals to be approved. However, and in the meantime, I ask that the board prioritize safety and security measures and take immediate action. A locked door into the office is a simple and innocuous way to control the flow of people coming in and out during the day. The ISD community is aware of the variety of challenges that you face every day. We advocate for your success because that will ultimately become the success of our children.
Thank you. Could you wrap it up quickly?
Yep. One more sentence.
Okay.
Just wanted to let you know we are watching closely and eagerly anticipate the changes that are coming.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have the East History Day students.
Good evening. Reminded at how difficult all of our jobs are and the many different really important topics that come to you as board members. So again, thank you for your time, and I know that safety is a major concern. I also, as we introduce the students for History Day, want to thank the clerical staff that helped to make History Day happen, and I know that you'll hear from many of the clerical staff and hope that they can soon have a contract that is resolved. So we have 2 students representing 14. We had over 14 that went to state and 35 for History Day that started. And I tease the students that only the strong make it to the starting line because it is a history project that takes a lot of time. And they're doing this in addition to schoolwork. And they do get some supports in their world history class, but we have students, believe it or not, 9th, 10th, and 12th graders that sign up to do history. So I'm really proud of the students, and these 2 fantastic students will introduce themselves, and they were willing to take their time just to come down and share a sample of the work. It can be a documentary, a paper, an exhibit, or a web page. So those are their options. And then Ms. Denayo, I just want to give you a shout out as well for all your help. She is a fantastic support to our district and comes in on her time to help them.
Hi. My name is Emily Pearson, and I'm a junior at Duluth East High School, and that was my History Day project. And I just think, on top of all the schoolwork that I had to do, it was just something that was really fun to work on. It was an interesting experience to learn how to write a paper and how to write the correct annotated bibliography with such specific guidelines. But just going into history and learning more, but a topic that interests me, because sometimes in our history classes we have to learn about stuff that we don't like, but being able to pick our own topic was really something that was really fun. And going to state as well was a really interesting experience to see all the other students from around the state that worked just as hard as I did. That was really fun.
Hi, I'm Charlie Tykrow. I'm a junior at East, and I don't have my presentation here, but I did a group documentary about land struggles in Poland during World War II. So History Day really helped build on my research skills, and I learned different ways to sort of sort out information and sort of pick what's the best, and that really helped me learn about writing a cohesive thesis and building off of that to create a strong project. On top of that, we also had the opportunity to interview a local member of our community who survived the Holocaust, and that was a really eye-opening experience that I probably wouldn't have had if I hadn't done History Day.
Also, it will look really good on college applications, so that's a plus. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, and congratulations to both of you. I was at the State History Day last year, and I saw the competition, so congratulations. Next, Cassandra Schick.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Cassandra Schick, and I am a teacher over at Laura MacArthur Elementary. I am also an alumni of Duluth Public Schools. Go Central Trojans. I'm here to speak on behalf of our clerical staff in our schools. From a young age, I came to realize that our clerical staff, or our secretaries as we called them back then, were the ones who truly kept the school working. They are the greeters, gatekeepers, and foundations of our schools. How are they greeters? Well, they're the first ones to welcome guests into our school. They are sometimes the first ones to welcome our students in the morning, and they are the friendly smile that some of our kiddos have come to depend on. Most of the time, they are the first friendly face that you meet as a new teacher, and they have become some of the greatest resources in the building for me as a new teacher. They also help you out if you forget your classroom key. Not that I've had to do that and get my sub key for the day. So how are they gatekeepers? Quite simply, they ensure that the buildings are safe with their visitor logs and passes. In addition, they help make transitions from different buildings, districts, or schools happen when there is a new student. They help make connections to parents, teachers, and community members by helping to organize events such as Kindergarten Roundup, conferences, and really any events happening in our school buildings. Clerical staff are the foundations for our school. They arrive before the kids do, and sometimes before all of the teachers are even in the building. They may not leave till after their end time because they may have one of our children waiting to be picked up, and they don't want the children or that child to be left alone or forgotten. They may put in extra time and energy to make sure that all of our kiddos get a fair chance at school, and they really do keep the building working like well-oiled machines. Our clerical staff are the public faces for our schools to thousands of students, staff, parents, and community members. But our clerical staff are so much more. They are the greeters, gatekeepers, and foundations to our schools, and they're also irreplaceable. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next is Beth McCuskey.
Hello, thanks for allowing me to be here. I put in my comment section that it was multi-tiered systems of support, because that is something that our school district is trying to implement throughout all our schools to deal with our students that are falling through the cracks. As a teacher, I need my clerical staff so that I can be successful at my multi-tiered systems of support. Without clerical, as was already mentioned, I don't feel as successful in my building as I could be. Our clerical do so much more than the average person understands. And I know you as board members get it because you're in a part of this. The safety issue is huge. They're our front line. Making me feel welcome is really important. Because when I, as a teacher, feel valued in my building, I do a better job with my students, and the clerical are there for me. What makes me sad, and I've been a part of negotiating 8 different teacher contracts, so I get what negotiating is, people need to feel that pat on the back, and sometimes the pat on the back isn't that expensive. Sometimes that pat on the back is acknowledging all the hard work. And takeaways are frustrating. Takeaways take away the pride that we have. So as we move forward with this contract, I really want us to open up and know that it's negotiations. It's not a negative aspect that needs to be there. And so I'd ask that you think about that, and let's move forward and everybody have those systems of support that they need. And for me, I need my clerical staff. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Stacy Hayes. Welcome.
Hi, and thank you for having me here tonight. And thank you to Jill for all the support that she's been giving me lately on the questions that I've been having. I'm here to talk about school security tonight as well. I've been working with a group of parents, and with all of us having kiddos in each school pretty much, well, actually every ISD 709 school, we've basically been doing some investigating on the school security, and we've found things that have scared us. And with the WDIO special that was on this morning as well, I'd like to inform you that your school doors are not locked. You have access to the office, but you do have that door that goes from the office to the hallways and to the classrooms, and that door is either left open or it is unlocked by the placement of a magnet, so the door can be just pushed open. This is because ISD 709 does not provide a physical key to all staff members, so the door would need to be have a door lock swipe that would need to be put in place now, immediately, to rectify this careless approach to our children's safety. And upon my research, this is around $200. I personally went to my son's school, which is Stowe Elementary, and spoke to Nathan Glockley, the principal. He said it was a no-brainer to close and lock the door. I've gone there a few random times and checked, and that door has always been closed. And Brenda, that works at the front office, has been more than willing to talk to me about school safety and how she feels about things, and I've hugged her multiple times and thanked her for her selflessness to work at that office, because I think that not protecting her by not having the front doors locked is a shame, because she's just there doing her job, and what if somebody was to come in and have an act of violence? Then our staff would be unfortunately shot, and then be no point in that door even being locked anyways, but with a magnet there, it'd just be pushed open, and so many things could happen in a matter of seconds. I did find out that Denfeld in the last couple months has gotten that transaction window, and I think that it would only be fair that we have universal security at all our ISD 709 schools. Also, I heard this assistant superintendent this morning say that you guys do not plan to implement the ALICE program into your district, although you know that all the other districts have. I've confirmed that Edison, Harbor City, Proctor, Hermantown have all done this. She mentioned that herself and other admin are trained. I'm also trained, and I work in the classroom, not at ISD 709, but I'm just wondering how the admin would be better trained than someone like myself who's an educator in the classroom, because it doesn't seem to make sense to me why admin would be trained when they're not even in the classroom with the students. I looked into the company that you mentioned at the last school board meeting, which was the Minnesota Department of Public Safety. I did find the course, the Minnesota Integrated Emergency Management course, and I compared it with the active shooter civilian response training for all organizations, and I didn't see why you would want to go with that. So I'm hoping that we'll get further information as to why you would choose that over the program that all the other districts are going for. I mean, if you're trying to set yourself apart from the other school districts, that's definitely a way to do it. So I'll leave you with this. The Dalai Lama said today on Twitter, "Compassion is of little value if it just remains an idea." So I hope that you never have to say, "Our thoughts and prayers go out to those who lost their kids today."
Thank you. Next is Shane Johnson.
Good evening. I am before you today to share a wonderful opportunity that I've had with Katie Oliver, who is a teacher at Lincoln Park Middle School. So Katie and I have partnered for this time will be, we've had 2 sessions together where she has brought over her WIN students. They are students who have been identified as struggling in school, who are not attending school, and Katie works with them and teaches them a reading strategy, and they develop their own lessons, and they come and share they teach my students. So I have this quote for you. It says, "We know that from human history and the latest learning science that success comes from the combination of academic knowledge and the ability to work with others. And we need public education to reflect this. And so I think between Katie and I, having this opportunity for her kids to come and teach, for them to feel positive, to have a positive moment in their day, and for my kids to see that middle school kids are not scary. They're average kids. They're kids just like me, and they get to learn from each other. The conversation is rich and deep. So also another thank you to that is the fact that the school bus company has now, not the school bus, but the Duluth Public Transportation, because they now have a route up to Lincoln Park. We can now ride the public transportation from school to school and continue our partnership. So on May 29th, we will meet for the last time, and my students get to go to the middle school. So we're super excited, and I just wanted to share this bit of news with you today. So thank you.
Thank you. Next is Riley Brett.
Hi, my name is Riley Brett. I'm a 7th grader at Ordine East Middle School. Last week I was dress coded for wearing these shorts, and according to the dress code, these are too short. I wear these shorts to gym, soccer, and these are the shorts available for girls these days. I believe the dress code is sexist because the shorts available to boys meet the dress code, but the shorts available to girls are not. I frequently see girls singled out for the way they are dressed, and boys are not dress coded for the way they are dressed. The way that I am dress coded is the way that I'm dressed is comfortable, not sexual. It is in fact uncomfortable to wear jeans on an 80-degree day. When I get sent out of class because my clothing is not appropriate to the dress code or because it is distracting boys, you are saying that the boys' education is more important than mine. I urge you to reconsider the dress code. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Next is Bernie Burnham.
All right, good evening. Thanks for having all of us here tonight. I think this is pretty exciting, actually, to see a packed house. I've just got a few things to share with you tonight. First and foremost, on Thursday night, we are celebrating our retirees that are leaving our district this year. We've got about 30 folks on our list, and we have an event every year, and it's really nice to see them, and they bring their guests, and sometimes their colleagues come, and so it's just a nice event. And if you're so inclined, you can reach out to Terry DeZuck, and she can help you out and come and visit with folks. The second thing I just came from before I got here tonight was our mentor celebration for the end of the year, and we have about 45 pairs of mentors and mentees that worked together this past year, and it's been a very valuable program. We are, as always, thankful that the school district continues to help fund that. We do it in partnership, and there are about 100 trained mentors that we have in the district right now, according to Ginger Backus and Emily Lull, who lead that program for us. So, fabulous program. As we know, we continue to, as time goes on, get new teachers that come into the district, so it's very important that they have someone that they can lean on for a variety of things, whether it's where is the copy machine or how do I, get into Infinite Campus or all of those things. So we're thankful for that and appreciate your support on that. I do want to add, the couple of folks that talked about school security, I don't want us to forget Merritt Creek Academy. I know that place is not secure either. It's one of our 4 residentials, and you can walk in there on any given day because I do it quite frequently, and nobody checks. I mean, you can go right down to the classrooms, and so that's another site to be thinking of when you're looking at that. And finally, as I look out in the audience and I see all the red, on our clerical staff, who I'm proud to call colleagues and friends, I too want to echo that I know they're in mediation and that we hope that they get what they need. They are our front line, and they greet families and they greet teachers, And they are often there when we're not there. I mean, whether they should be or not, I know they're working hard, and I appreciate the work that they do. So I'd like to, as I have said numerous times over this last year, every member of this organization counts, and I think that they have a key role in what we do. So thank you for what you do, because you hear a lot as well, and I appreciate you too. But I want us to know and remember that everybody counts.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have a trio, Chloe, Layla, and Tanya. Welcome, all of you.
Good evening. My name is Tanya Jackson. I'm a sixth grade teacher at Ordine East Middle School. I'm also a racial equity advocate through Education Minnesota's FIRE program, which stands for Facing Inequities and Racism in Education. And through that program, I got some training on restorative justice circles. So at Ordine, my students and I started seeing a pattern of a culture that was at times unkind. And so we took a day of class to engage in some racial or restorative justice circles. And these two amazing young women would like to tell you about it.
Hi, my name is Chloe Palmer. I'm a sixth grade student at Ordine East Middle School. One day we walked into class and we saw a circle of chairs. We read on the board, Rock Talk. We knew at this that there have been sites that should not be happening, and we were going to talk about solutions to these. The community in the sixth grade was very exclusive.
Hi, I'm Leela Heschen-Arbright, and I go to Ordine East Middle School, and I'm in the sixth grade. And this activity that we did, Rock Talk, made people feel and influenced them in many different ways. And I think the most common feelings that we saw was people were just sad. Like, they realized that things weren't being as inclusive and as kind than they should be, and how people should feel around our school. And I think that once we took the time to talk about that, it made a big impact, that people started listening and just smiling more down the hallways. And I think that's a big part of how our schools should be working, because having a safe, opening learning environment is a big part of what makes school a better place. And that some of our solutions to this problem was to form a group, and it's the Random Act of Kindness group. And we meet after schools and in WIN some days, and we make positivity posters, and one day we even coated the whole 6th and 7th grade lockers with just positivity sticky notes, like, I love your smile, you make me laugh, just things that are going to make people's days a lot better. And it's a lot easier to learn in an environment that is more opening and welcoming. So thank you all for your time. We really appreciated it. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Next is Carl Soderberg.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Kirby, Superintendent Gronseth, school board members, directors, and everyone here this evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Carl Soderberg, and I have been a proud employee of the Duluth Public Schools since 1999. And I strongly feel that the students in Duluth are successful and safe because of the team of professionals who work in and out of our buildings. Clerical staff, paraprofessionals, teachers, coaches, social workers, guidance counselors, media specialists, maintenance workers, custodians, bus drivers, food service workers. These are but a few that make up our team of caring professionals. I'm here tonight to speak specifically of my appreciation for the clerical staff. As many said earlier, secretaries are often the first ones in the building each day, and they are more than likely the staff members that our students see first on a daily basis. They work on the front line. They see the staff, students, parents on their best days and their worst days. Their interactions set the climate for the entire school, and it lets every visitor know that they are in a building that is positive and has an inclusive environment. Many of our students confide in them, and they develop relationships with students and parents that can pay dividends in regards to student academic success and well-being. They do all of this in addition to knowing what is going on in their building on a day-to-day, hour-to-hour basis. I urge you to take care of the secretaries who take care of us, our buildings, and our students. Their impact is far-reaching, and I feel it is of utmost importance that we recognize this fact, and I know that you will, by offering them a satisfactory contract. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Next is Linda Pelto.
Good evening. I'm Linda Pelto from Laura MacArthur. I teach 4th grade. And I would also like to speak to the contract of the clerical workers. I believe that they are, like you've heard from so many others tonight, the first person that parents and visitors and teachers see in the morning and are greeted by. And they deserve a contract that is fair, and I hope that they will receive higher wages and more vacation days and more training, as often they are left in a building alone without principals, and they are making important decisions, sometimes based on having to deal with discipline of children because there isn't someone else available at the time to deal with the discipline. So I just ask you to remember that, as I know you will. They work hard, and we all appreciate them, and we want them to know that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Kim Ledoux.
Hello, my name is Kim Ledoux. I've been with the Duluth Public Schools for 15 years, and I'm a product of ISD 709. I had background in finance and office management prior to being hired as the administrative assistant to the director of technology. One of my duties was the management of the district website, which at the time consisted of Word documents and PDF on an in-house server. As tech demands grew, so did my responsibilities. We needed a replacement system, and I was tasked with the job. I researched website products, presented options, set up test sites, organized focus groups. I provided cost estimates, data analysis, converted the old content to the new format, and trained all district staff on the new system. I truly love that part of my job and being able to work with the teachers and the staff in this district. When budget cuts caused the reduction of that position, I moved over to the payroll position in the finance department. I utilized my finance background and my 9 years of knowledge to excel in the position. I served as a trainer to others during my years there. I knew any mistakes affected somebody's paycheck and therefore were not acceptable. I remember during the floods of 2012, staying as other district staff were told to leave the building. Until I knew the bank upload was successful, so everyone would be paid on time, even as my routes home were being washed out. I left payroll to seize the opportunity to work for the staff and the high school students of ALC and AEO. I'll never forget hugging a student as we all celebrated the moment they received their diploma, of coordinating their graduation ceremony, and of processing their transcript for college. I returned to my finance roots last summer, as I've always had a love for numbers, learning, and problem solving. I'm here tonight as I have been on the negotiation team since we started over a year ago. While negotiations have been cordial, we are in need of your help coming to a fair and favorable contract. Our team has been upfront and forthcoming that there are serious flaws within the current contract regarding the reduction of weeks and how it affects members' vacation time. We have been willing to offset the costs involved with fixing this area and presented several options. But asking our members to accept a reduction of 1 month of pay without the option of making themselves whole is not possible. I've had Duluth police chase armed suspects through my halls and needed to lock down my buildings. There's a lot of stress in these positions, and having vacation time to decompress and recharge is vital to the mental health, productivity, and employee morale. These professionals ensure the integrity of data, be it financial, transcripts, grading, and attendance, all of which affect district funding. When teachers, staff, and students aren't in the building, the work is not done. I'm proud to be a member of this fine group of people who are dedicated to their jobs, take pride in their work, and do whatever it takes to support the staff and students of ISD 709. Please work with us on this outstanding issue so that we can come to a fair and favorable conclusion. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Chris Hughes.
Sorry, I was out of order. My name's Chris Hughes. I work at Lincoln Park Middle School. I've been in the district for over 20 years. I have worked at 5 different sites, not always moving because I wanted to, but because I was bumped and chose to stay in the district. And as everyone has said, we do way more than our contract says, like things we volunteer for, like chaperoning a glow dance till 9 o'clock on Friday night, which was fun, but tiresome. And just as everyone else has said, you know, when things come up, you need to figure out why someone's in the building, if they have custody or don't. I think there's things people never think of. Sometimes as simple as figuring out if someone has had breakfast when they sign in late. So personally, the vacation thing kind of chaps my hide a little after working in the district for 20 years and having the same 5 vacation days I had the day I started. And what has kind of been rumbled is, well, but you have all summer off. Well, yes, unpaid, and that doesn't help the 46 of the weeks during the year that I do work and have long, long days. So I agree, fair and favorable is what we would like, and just to be equitable with some of the other districts and schools around the area.
Thank you. Next is Kayla Carroll. My apologies, I misread them. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kayla Carroll. I am the administrative professional at Congdon Park Elementary School for the last 2 years. I have been in the district for 7 years, starting as a room parent in my son's classroom. Then I worked as a cafeteria monitor, kitchen manager, AmeriCorps member with Rosie, great times, a teacher helper, and a testing coordinator. Some of my colleagues even referred to me as an assistant principal due to the many behaviors I deal with kids and staff on a daily basis. I also work alongside the principal in keeping the overall peace in the building. I am also involved in many volunteer opportunities at the school. I absolutely love the work I do at Congdon, and I care about every single student like they were my own, and feel the staff are second members of my family. We might not always get along, but we treat each other with respect and dignity. There are many days that I work late to get things done, and often go without a lunch or any breaks. There's just not enough time in a day to get it all done without working longer than the normal 8 hours a day. I know I'm not the only administrative professional to do these things, but Congdon is the largest elementary school district with currently serving over 600 students. I am proud to say that I know over 90% of my student population and the parents by name. Most days are hectic, and yet I do not complain because I love what I do. I'm reporting this because we need a fair and favorable contract. I'm here representing the other administrative professionals, and I know every single one of us give over 110%. I do care about what we do and the many lives we touch. I know I am lower in seniority, as I have been in this position for only 2 years. Parts of the contract we're trying to negotiate does not necessarily pertain to me right now. However, I know eventually I will be where my counterparts are now, some who have worked 20 plus years of service. We all deserve a fair and favorable contract. Please discuss this among yourselves, with the other members of the district, and with our wonderful president, Joan Lincor, back there, for more information. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next is Sue Bridge.
Hello, I am Sue Bridge from Lincoln Park School, along with Chris. And I've been a secretary first we were in Morgan Park, and then we moved to Lincoln Park, and I will be there 20 years in August. I do the treasury for the school, I do the student enrollment, I take care of the records, and as we both do, we take care of the teachers, we take care of the students, we take care of the screaming parents when they call, which is not always fun. We love our job there. I live 40 miles away. I drive 80 miles a day to come back and forth to work in my job because I love it. It's just we are looking for a fair and favorable contract. The vacation issues are difficult, and for those people who have worked for so long that only get 1 week of vacation, it just does not seem right. And I just hope that you can help us out in this. Thank you.
Thank you. Cindy McLeod.
Thank you for my job. I know money's tight. I work in finance. I work here. I drive quite a ways every day, and I've been here since 7 today. I need to talk to you because I feel we need a fair and favorable contract. I work in payroll. I make sure everybody gets paid on time. These ladies here make sure the timesheets are filled out correctly. They can answer my questions. They make sure that the payroll is done. I have been doing it for 4 years now, but I also have a husband, 2 kids, 4 grandkids, and some vacation. This is so emotional. It's like I'm fighting for my job. And I take this emotion into every timesheet because I want everybody to have fairness in that too. If somebody gets sick for something, the other person should get sick for something. I make sure that it's fair in every payroll I do. And I want that for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Heidi Morris.
Thank you. I am Heidi Morris. I work in the finance office as well. I work in accounts receivable. I'm also serve as the treasurer of our unit of fabulous women here. We, as you've heard, and I'm not going to repeat everything, but yes, we are the gatekeepers and the first faces that people see in the schools, but we're also payroll, we're also finance. We also work in the transportation department, the facilities department, the textbooks department. We make sure that books get out to the teachers. We make sure our payroll is made. We are in literally every department in this district. We're a group of 47 individuals, fabulous individuals. Half of us work 52 weeks a year. Half of us do not. Half of us work out in the schools. Half of us work in this administrative or the transportation or the facilities department. So, as I said, we're actually everywhere. We have people who are working over and above always, putting in the extra time through lunch, overtime, and not getting compensated. Why do we do this? We are here to support the teachers, the staff, the students and the administrators of the school. We're very proud in what we do. So far, as you've heard, we are in the middle of negotiations. We are in mediation. So far, we have had wonderful conversations, and I thank the district for those conversations. I hope going forward that we are able to give this fabulous group of people who work over and above what they need to support our schools and our students what we can deserve. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Enrique Meza.
Hi, good evening. My name is Enrique Mesa, and I am here on behalf of Health and All Policies. I would like to express my gratitude for allowing me this opportunity and share with you how we look forward to the tool for equity accountability being brought to the next school board meeting and being part of the process developing strategies and implementation. Community input is a critical part of this process, and we look forward to working together and educating community members of Health and All Policies, developing and regaining trust. We look forward to future opportunities and appreciate your efforts and hard work. Thank you again for allowing me this opportunity and willing to lend me your ear.
Thank you. Salam Witherspoon.
Hi, I'm Salam Witherspoon. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm with Health and All Policies. It's a coalition between CHUM, Zeitgeist, Generation for Health, Cross-Cultural Alliance Duluth, and NAACP. And so, like Enrique said, we're here to show our continued support for the tool for equity accountability that will be brought to the school board for review at the next upcoming meeting. So Health and All Policies has been in the process of gathering information from community stakeholders and currently working with the Office of Education Equity to create strategies for implementation and accountability. Again, we look forward to the continued collaboration, and thank you again for allowing us to speak.
Thank you. There are no other people signed up. Is there anyone else who would like to speak?
Good evening. School board members, superintendent. My name is Kevin Scora Brown. I'm here representing the Community-Based School Equity Initiative. Wow. So listening tonight, I'm reminded of just how great the needs are within the district. We in the Community-Based School Equity Initiative are aware of and support the efforts by other groups within the community, not even mentioned yet tonight, that are focused on the hiring process for the assistant superintendent and the director of curriculum positions, addressing disproportionality and discipline, and the selection of the texts that will address race, racism, and privilege within our high schools. We believe that each of these represent important opportunities to advance equity in the district. As a committee, as we move forward into the summer, there are several issues that we'll be working on. We believe progress can and should be made in each of these in time for the 18-19 school year. Those are access to school, access to courses at the high school level, and the calculation of comp ed investments. Access to school. We continue to believe that utilizing existing bus capacity to get more kids within that 2 miles of their high schools to school regularly and reliably makes good common sense. We will be working through the summer on a plan to do this with the expectation that it can be piloted at both high schools in time for early winter. Access to classes. The early versions of the master schedule for the high schools reveal that Denfeld continues to suffer from a significant number of course singletons. Providing comparable or equal access to courses is a tenet of fair education. As things stand now, students who attend Denfeld have a more restricted set of course offerings when overlapping singletons are considered. Telepresence was to help this. It was pulled last winter in the deficit crisis and has so far been omitted from the 2019 budget. Perhaps a change in the secondary school schedule will, at some point, partially alleviate this issue. But what about next year and all the years until that schedule change gets implemented? And even with the schedule change, it is likely that Denfeld will still have overlapping singletons. Now, some folks may be thinking, well, Denfeld is getting more of the comp ed money it generates now. That should take care of this. Well, we all know that comp ed dollars are to address the achievement gap, and solving the course scheduling issue is a general education obligation. We urge you to keep this in mind as the master schedules get finalized. And finally, discretionary comp ed investment calculations. We have just recently learned about and plan to learn more about a change in how the discretionary comp ed investments at the building level are being calculated. It sounds like the district has moved away from a use of actual staff costs to a method of assigning average staff costs to positions funded with discretionary comp dollars. This has brought to light a second concern, namely the $96,000 quote average cost for certified employees may not be an average at all, but instead may be a high-end outlier. Using an average instead of an actual cost, and further an inflated average, would serve to reduce the buying power of the comp ed discretionary dollars.
Thanks. Can you wrap it up?
I will.
Thanks.
This change has the potential to limit the discretionary comp ed gains in each of our regular school buildings. We will be looking into this in the weeks ahead, and we'll be sure to share with all of you what we find out. Thank you.
Thanks. Is there anyone else? I'd like to thank all of the people who spoke, especially maybe the students. I know it's hard to get up here, especially when you're in the 6th grade, so good for them. Thanks again. We'll move on then to the next part of our agenda, which is reading communications petition. Superintendent.
Thank you. I had to get to the right page. There was a communication. It is it's actually the second communication that we've received from someone who only signs Molly, and I don't have a last name or any contact information, so it's I'm hoping that Molly watches this and gets to hear that we did receive her message. She shared a note regarding a study that shows general lack of knowledge about the Holocaust in the country, and her request that we evaluate our curriculum on the subject. So that completes the communications.
Thank you. Next we have Superintendent's report.
Yes. I would like to start off by saying thank you to those of you who spoke for our clerical staff. We know how much our clerical staff and do for our staff and students and their families, and we very much appreciate you. We're hopeful that we'll soon have an agreement, and as we're waiting for the mediation date to come, please know that we value what you do and your seemingly superhero powers in keeping everything in the district operating smoothly. I also wanted to speak just really briefly to the average cost of staff and how that works with budgeting. That is something that we've done, and most school districts do, is use an average cost as you're doing staffing. We do that with all areas of the budget, not just discretionary funding, but when we do staffing in general, that uses an average cost. And so if we were to take all of the discretionary and use it specifically for staff who cost less, then the average of everyone else goes up. And so if we don't apply an average to all or actual to all, then that changes those numbers. So, and I know that's a complicated issue and one that we are deep in conversation about and will continue to work on. So, moving on. This is definitely a busy time of year as we're wrapping up one year and planning for the next, all at the same time. And in response to questions around safety, I want to confirm that we are planning for the fall, for updating those crisis response plans and protocols. It is an ALICE-like training, but not the ALICE training. ALICE is really a brand name, if you will, for a specific training by a specific company. And so we are looking at very similar training, but a little bit different. As you can imagine, planning training for 1,200 staff members and 8,600 students takes some doing, and making sure that we have a good process in place so that everyone feels confident in the new protocols and feel confident that they know what our procedures and protocols will be. So we are currently working on that. Regarding the office doors, you're right, there was a lot of discussion about that, it's over a decade ago now. And so a lot of things have happened since then, between then and now. At the time, there's much discussion about the balance between a safe and welcoming environment in the office and the security of the building. And that's where we got to the place where we are, where people have access to the office, but not directly to the rest of the building. We are having more discussions about that, and with so much happening, so many tragic events in the past decade, having discussions about what that could look like for each of our buildings. Each of the entries is a little bit different, and so it would take a slightly different plan for each of our buildings. We're currently in the process of determining what those could look like, and the investment that it would take for each building, so that when the legislative session is complete and we know a little bit more about what we will be working with as far as capital funding to address that, we will be ready to have those discussions. So that is the work that we are doing in the meantime. We are also very pleased to say that we've had a very thorough process for the positions for our assistant superintendent and director of curriculum. They've gone through a thorough screening process and interviewing process. We had quite a large team involved with those interviews, and there were many, many hours spent together as we interviewed and discussed candidates. And we are pleased to welcome Jeff Horton as assistant superintendent. Mr. Horton comes to us from St. Cloud Schools, where he served as director of student services. He also has a background as a special education teacher and has many other experiences that he brings to the table. And we look forward to welcoming him and his family to Duluth when he starts in July. He'll be doing a little transition with Assistant Superintendent Starzecki through June. And we would also like to welcome Gail Netland, currently Curriculum Coordinator for the Red Lake School District. She has accepted the Director of Curriculum and Instruction position for the Duluth schools, and she will also be starting in July, also working on some transitions with Dr. Carey through June. We will be sending out announcements with more of their formal background and vitae very shortly. And as I mentioned, the year is very quickly coming to a close. It's hard to believe. This is actually the final school board meeting before the end of the school year. And while we still have a few weeks to go, graduation is right around the corner. We want to thank everyone for an amazing school year. We definitely know that we've gone through some difficult times together this year, but it's also been an amazing year. It's a day-to-day work that's done by so many people in so many roles that makes a difference in the lives of our students and their families and our community as a whole. And it is just such an honor and a privilege to work with so many people who care so much about the kids of our community. So thank you all for everything that you do. And for our students, thank you as well. And keep on reading over the summer. Research shows that students who read more achieve more. I'm forever a teacher, and reading is important. So it also says that time in nature does the same thing. And so get outside, play outdoors, get involved with our community. There are so many things to do in our beautiful community, and ways to be continuing your involvement and volunteering with the many events around the community over the summer. But I want you to finish strong, too. You have 16 days left. Show them everything. Get that homework done. Make sure you're there on time. You're paying attention. You got to finish strong. So I'm sure that Mr. White and Ms. Carlos have some things to add to that. And so, Finn, I'll hand it off to East first. Let Denfeld finish strong.
All right, so May is National Mental Health Awareness Month, and I wanted to talk a little bit about what East has done in honor of that. So in the beginning of the month, we had a Mental Health Awareness Week. One of the coolest events there was students had the opportunity to sign a pledge to become a mental health supporter, and if they did that, they were then signed up for a win, where we had Dr. Sutherland come in as a guest speaker, and he taught us about how to recognize warning signs in our peers, and what to do if a friend were to come to us in a crisis situation. And it was a really informative and meaningful talk to everyone who attended. We also had other events such as writing positive messages on the sidewalk in front of East in chalk. And we went around to wins and passed out paper slips where people were able to, again, write a positive message. And then we made them into a giant paper chain. In addition to that, we launched a social media campaign using the hashtags EHS It Gets Better and hashtag End the Stigma in an effort to raise awareness around mental health. Some other stuff we have going on, we are quickly approaching the end of the school year, and it is a busy time for students still, especially the seniors. I can tell they're ready to get it over with. Our seniors are getting ready for graduation, and the other grades are in the midst of tests such as the AP exams, which I will be starting tomorrow, so that's something. Also, our East DI team is going to Globals in Nashville, Tennessee, which will take place over Memorial Day weekend. Some upcoming events. Tomorrow night at 7:30 is the second collab concert, which will feature Laney and the Tramps and The Boys Back Home, which are two bands that are completely composed and created by East students. They're really cool. In addition to that, it will be the first and second jazz bands we have at East, so two jazz bands there. And then on Friday, Dr. Updergrove will be hosting a discussion about mental health in his room after school. I believe that the organizers wanted school board members to attend if possible, so it'd be cool if you guys could come. And then on Friday, Exec will be putting on a movie night. In the baseball field, we'll be showing Inside Out, and we'll be asking people who attend if they can donate a couple dollars, which we will then be taking and giving to a mental health organization. And that is all I have for today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we had a career day win last Wednesday that featured many different job options all throughout Duluth, which was really super nice because we have a variety of students at Denfeld, and there were applications for Wendy's and signups for the military, and there were so many options, which was just super nice to have a bunch of the different things to look at. And then we had our Matt Kiro Track Invitational last Friday, and then we also have the race coming up, so stay tuned to find out when that is. And Denfeld's next year Link Crew has just kicked into gear with our traditional May Day. So all the Link leaders came together and we played team building activities, which was super fun. And it was absolutely incredible to see how well all of us got along, because it was a totally new group and it was super fun and amazing. And so on May 12th, we had our prom, which was a night under the stars, and everyone had such a blast. And as one of our Denfeld students said, and I quote, "This dance was a lot different than the other dances because it was only upperclassmen, which made it a lot more fun and personal," which I'm sure a lot of us could agree with. So we had the pleasure of having the American folk singer, violinist, and the daughter of our math teacher, Tim White, Galen Lee, perform for us during our win. Both the band and orchestra were able to play with her, and I was personally so proud of Denfeld during her performance because you could have heard a pin drop, and that was just incredible. Everyone was taken back to how talented our own Mr. White was with a harmonica, and she was just so inspiring to have there. So on April 20th, we had our walkout held by Gracie Anderson. There were around 200 students who participated, and I would like to publicly thank our Denfeld staff for supporting us and keeping us safe here at Denfeld. And we'll also be having our second annual senior walk, where the seniors will be visiting our feeder elementary schools to be good role models and be recognized by their former staff. And then speaking of staff, it was Teacher Appreciation Week, as we all know, and there are a few things that the students from Denfeld would like to say. So one student said, "I appreciate Mr. Cameron because he always greets me in the hallway and makes everyone's day better." And there was one, "I really like Julie, our hall monitor, because she always helps me whenever I'm having a bad day and is letting me take time for myself." And Mr. Holmstrom has been a mentor to me and really reaches out and builds relationships with his students, which I will forever appreciate. And then lastly, Mr. Shaw is always willing to help, and he's also very positive and makes sure everyone's day is going good. And as we mentioned, that the year is coming to a close, and the seniors have officially begun their countdown, and they have exactly 12 days left.
12 days.
And not that we're counting, but yes, we have 16 more days for everybody else.
And I know that I will be out at Denfeld a week from Friday for a Key Club. I think it's a week from Friday.
I think so too.
Yeah, so I'm
excited.
Practicing my my duck and cover for when you're trying to hit me with a pie. So, not a haircut. We settled on pie. All right, that completes my report.
All right. Thank you. Now we'll move on to the Education Committee report. Member Lofald.
So good evening. As my team comes up to the table for help and guidance and connections, I want to thank the people that are attending. I want to thank the people that spoke tonight as a public speaking teacher, speech coach. I know that that skill set is a valuable one, and I'm glad that you step out of your comfort zone to share with us, because it really helps us understand and keep us connected. So thank you. I also just want to share with you too that the Education Committee that I chair, we meet on Tuesdays from 4:15 to usually about 6:30. That is the second Tuesday of every month. It's called the Education Committee. So tonight I'm reviewing what we shared, but really the Education Committee on that Tuesday is where you really do get a lot of background into our policies, into our conversations, into the resolutions that we present tonight. And so I encourage you to attend the Education Committee, and I'm sure my board members will encourage you to attend the Human Resources and the Business on Mondays as well. So here is our rundown of our Education Committee last Tuesday. We heard from Assistant Superintendent Starsecki, which is really what we do every time we meet, and she shares with us some of the more important aspects of her job, which is very busy and very detailed, and she is incredibly gifted, and we're lucky to have had and work with her. But she highlighted these things that she has been doing. She highlighted the full service community schools. She gave us more background on the conference attended and just where we're going and the excitement about full service community schools. Assistant Superintendent Starsecki also talked about the Early Childhood Summit that 35 staff members attended along with her, and we really got a background on our early childhood and our direction there. We also found out that we had staff attend the mental health conference on April 15th through 17th, so I agree with Member White in his East's embracing and working with our mental health and communicating with students and getting professional people to come in and talk. And I also applaud our district in their mental health initiatives and the programs, and know that it's nothing we take for granted. We work on that type of accomplishments and education and keeping mental health very centered to how we work in our district. Assistant Superintendent Starsecki also reviewed our wellness policy and updates, and we have that in our board minutes, and I encourage you to look those over as well. And then we also talked about our disproportionate discipline plan update. Some of that information is currently in the news as well, nationwide, statewide, and Assistant Superintendent Starsecki has been working with district leadership, Minnesota leadership, staff leadership, and she reviewed the steps, the first steps that we are in the process of developing leadership and teams to oversee this issue. So there's some data she shared with us as well, and that's on our website as well if the community would like to look at the data and also what the district is doing. And lastly, she shared, because I had asked her about our district's overview on school security and safety. And we heard some parents talk with us tonight, and they have been, I think, impressed with what they have seen and heard, but still want us to work on some other areas that they see we need to. And that was Assistant Superintendent Starsecki's report. So then we also, at our meeting, heard from Laurel MacArthur and from Lakewood. Both of those schools' leadership, principal, continuous improvement team sat before us with a PowerPoint, and they shared with us their goals, their accomplishments, their areas where they want to see some improvement. And it's just really good for board members, and that's why I want my community to be there as well, because you'd realize just the great things that are going on in the schools across our district, and that the leadership in our districts certainly know their successes, but also know their challenges and are willing to share with us as board members where they're going and know that they're working hard. After our presentations from Laura MacArthur and Lakewood, then we also heard some advisory committee reports, and those we got information from EAC, which is the Educational Equity Advisory Committee, and they operate from a district, our district leader of Mr. Howes, but it is the Cruz Mendoza is the EEAC chair, and he just presented us with information and some handouts for that committee. And that was the only advisory committee we looked at last Tuesday. So I'm on grant applications. We have 3 grant applications from the National College Fair for East to go to a college fair next fall. We also have a grant from Essentia Health. Melissa Jansen from Homecroft has worked with getting a grant to help the Homecroft field work. And we also got a grant application or approval from Lloyd Johnson Foundation grants that will fund Duluth Service Learning Collaborative. Our action items are that we have a state grant from, on behalf of the Head Start Director Pam Reese and Assistant Superintendent Starsecki, the Head Start grant application for approval. Assistant Superintendent, do I have to read that resolution, or is there a resolution, or we just really worked through that already? So that's just an informational item. Okay. So next I'm on action items number 2. We do have a resolution, E-05-18-3541. It's the response to the American Indian Education Resolution of Concurrence and Non-Concurrence. Do I read that now?
I think there's one before that.
There is one before that. Is that the
Acceptance of grants.
grant?
Yes.
Okay. So here is the grant resolution. It's the acceptance of the Lloyd K. Johnson and the Lester Park Foundation. It is Resolution E-5-18-3540, whereas the Minnesota Statute 465-.03 requires a school district to accept grants by resolution expressed in the terms prescribed by the donor in full. And whereas acceptance of the grant in accordance with the donor's terms is in the best interest of the Duluth Public Schools, now therefore be it resolved that the Duluth Public Schools does accept the below described grant from said organization in accordance with the terms set forth herein. Be it further resolved that the Duluth Public Schools wishes to extend its grateful appreciation of this organization. So it's grants from the Lloyd K. Johnson to the Duluth Public Schools ISD for the project Duluth Service Learning Collaborative in the award amount of $1,900, and also our second grant, the Lester Park Foundation, for the elementary teachers and staff in the amount of $4,174.26. This resolution, I move E-5-18-3540.
Second.
Thank you. Seconded by Member Loeffler Kemp. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of accepting this resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously.
Thank you. Do I read this resolution for, okay. This resolution is on page 38. Thank you. 48. Resolution, it's the response to the American Indian Education Resolution of Concurrence and Non-Concurrence for 2017. Whereas Minnesota Statute 124D.78 requires a school board to respond in writing within 60 days in cases of non-concurrence to each recommendation made by the American Indian Education Parent Committee and state its reasons for not implementing the recommendations. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Duluth School Board submits the response to the American Indian Education Resolution of Concurrence and Non-Concurrence 2017 report as attached. And we've had that. We'll have discussion, I'm sure, about that. So this resolution, I move E-5-18-3541.
Thank you. Seconded by Member Sandsted. Any discussion? Seeing none. All in favor of resolution E-5-18-3541, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously.
Next in the Education Committee is the acceptance of diploma requests. Do I read these names?
Yep.
So we are delighted and we congratulate the following members of the Duluth Public Schools for their graduation accomplishments at this board meeting. And so we will congratulate and recognize Samantha R. Smith, Van Michael Johnson, Amber Teague, Austin Balin, Caitlin Rose West, Jared Thomas Larson, Drew Gary Michael Brower, Haley Nicole Fossen, Jamar Earl Alexander, Skylar James Smith, Jasmine M. Clark, Joshua Keith Blackletter, Melinda Louise Bolgren, Esther Abigail Elizabeth Hammer, Caleb John Undall, Megan Marie Kenny, Matthew R. Jupe, and Samantha Pavick. It is recommended that the Duluth School Board accept and approve the diploma requests this month. We had no policy. Thank you. So this concludes the Education Committee report for tonight.
You move the acceptance of that?
I move the acceptance of this Education Committee report on this May 15th.
Thank you. Seconded by Member Oswald. Any discussion on this? Member Oswald.
I'd like to pull 1B2 and 1C2.
1B2 and 1C2. Anyone else? Member Loeffler Kemp.
Yeah, I'd just like to make a comment on B2 and
1B2.
Excuse me. 1B2. I'm looking. And C1.
C1. Okay. Anyone else? All right. Member Oswald, 1B2. There you go.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank Chair Cruz Mendoza for coming to talk to us. And I wanted to verbally recognize that he is going to be working hard to reorganize what EAC does and how they do it within our district. And I fully expect I'll be supporting his gathering of many community organizations that are working on a lot of the same issues and bringing them all together to the EAC table, which is board authorized by resolution. So I look forward to being present at those meetings, and I certainly hope that we have very productive conversations in the future that change things for our kids.
Thank you. Member Leffler-Kemp.
Thank you. My comment is just partly for the public. The advisory committee under the leadership of our staff person, William Howes, also puts together the integration plan, the achievement and integration plan, and I just want people to know it's on the website. Past integration plans are also on the website, and that's for the work through his department will happen from July 1st, 2017 through June 30th, 2020. And so just if you want more information on the work going on through his office, it is on the website. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Member Oswald again.
I think Rosie's first.
1C2?
I think Rosie's first she wanted to talk about the group for college fair grant.
Yeah.
C1.
Oh, 1B2, Rosie was on.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay.
I was on C1. Okay. I just wanted to highlight with that grant that has been approved, it was for Duluth East High School to go to the Minnesota National College Fair, and it came up after the meeting that we did approve a similar grant for Denfeld High School, and I just wanted to make sure people knew that both of our high schools were covered for attending the fair. So just informational there.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, now Member Oswald.
Thank you. This is on the Essential Health Grant being written by Melissa Jansen at Homecroft Elementary School. We had a really engaging discussion about Ms. Jansen, who is a parent that is working hard at fixing the giant field at Homecroft. And I think we overlooked the fact, and I really wanted to clarify it among board members anyway, that Melissa's working on the behalf of the school. This is very much a project that the principal there really wants to accomplish. It's not something from an outside source. She's just the principal is utilizing the resources of parents that have energy and drive to get this done, and the sooner the better for them, because they have no excess field space to play on. It's the playground, and that's it. So I just want to make that clarification.
Thank you. Anyone else? Superintendent.
Excuse me. I know that the Homecroft field has been an issue for a while. I know it was when I was principal at Homecroft, and the water issue that is there. After the meeting, we learned a little bit more, and there's some challenges in addressing it. And I want to let you know that there are some issues, especially I know with it's considered wetland, and so we have to do some work there. So it's not a done deal. Certainly work that we want to do, but we want to make sure that we're doing it well, and that we're working with all of the agencies that we need to work with wetlands and everything else that goes along with it, and as far as permitting and everything. So know that the work is continuing. We're very thankful to have community members like Melissa Jansen who give of their time and their talents to do this, and know that it's probably going to take us a bit more time to work through all of the different aspects of this project because it's a very large project.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, it's been moved and seconded to accept the Education Committee report. And no further discussion. All in favor of accepting this, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Then it passes unanimously. Thank you. I would like to take a 5-minute break if we can do that. And so we'll say 8:15. That's a little bit more than 5, but thank you. All right, I'd like to call the meeting to order again. Waiting for Member Lofald. All right, next in our agenda is the Human Resources Report. Member Gorham.
Thank you, Chair Kirby. First up, we'll discuss the staffing report. As has been commonly discussed, and as Superintendent Gronseth already discussed, the Assistant Superintendent and Director of Curriculum positions were hired. And just announced here. One thing that I wanted to add and touch on, because it was a point of conversation in several meetings that I was involved with over the last month, is about the hiring process and the hiring committee. And I just want to assure the public that a diverse hiring committee was in place. I think about 11 to 12 people with representatives from the community in various positions within the district. So utilized a diverse hiring committee to make those decisions. And as Superintendent Gronseth said, there was much discussion about the candidates. So I just wanted to clarify that. Another part of the staffing report that was discussed is the 2 open principal positions. And as of right now, I can just simply say that the process is ongoing. Moving on to action items. We discussed, it's been an ongoing conversation for several months now, hourly wage rates for hourly employees. So what's been proposed through the work of Member Oswald and Ms. Linda Kinnear is a 1% increase in wage for all current hourly non-substitute employees. That is what has been proposed. Impacted positions are highlighted in red in the list contained in the agenda packet. Some hourly positions may appear on the list but are not. So there's some hourly positions listed within there, but they're not currently staffed or hired. So those positions were not included in the packet as indicating a raise. Is that accurate, Member Oswald? Accurate summary from your work?
I'm not sure. I would check with Ms. Kinnear.
Ms. Kinnear?
That's correct. We took the list of hourly, strictly hourly, not substitute, and we utilized the ones that we currently were employing.
Thank you for checking that. And one thing that was, there was much discussion about this topic. As a point of reference, neighboring districts pay people in similar positions at about $9.75 to $10 per hour, according to information provided by Ms. Linda Kinnear, correct? Yep, okay.
Anywhere from the minimum wage up to about $10 an hour for similar type work. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So we discussed that, and that will be part of the report, not a separate action item. We also received updates on the paraprofessional protest. Protest, not protest, as it's 2 words. So let me explain a little further. There is no paraprofessional protest. Let me assure you. It didn't come out that way when I typed it. So to provide a little more context, those applying to paraprofessional positions who do not have 60 semester credits at the college level must pass the Para-Pro test to become a para, to become certified as a para in the district. So right now, the nearest testing site to Duluth is in Virginia, Minnesota. Several years ago, the district did make some attempt to become a testing site. However, due to incongruencies with the technology provided by the testing site and our district technology, we were unable to do so. So it has been followed up upon, and as technology has progressed, in particular with the testing company, I believe it is, our computers are being tested to see if they comply and to see if we're going to be able to offer this test right here in Duluth, which will open up more opportunities for more candidates right here in Duluth to serve in our school district. So that's a great thing. Thank you to all the staff working on that, and I look forward to further updates as we test those computers and see if we're going to be able to do that. The next thing on our list was a discussion of the superintendent review process. The committee met, it would have been a week and a half ago now, And it's an ongoing process, and what they're really looking at right now is benchmarks and evaluation measures for how we're going to evaluate the superintendent as a school board. So there's a little more work to be done before those evaluation measures are ready to be shared with the collective board. Last but not least, this was not a part of our Human Resources Committee meeting, but it was related. There was a candidate forum to end poverty. It is a follow-up forum, and there are many topics discussed there. Some of them we have already heard about tonight, the tool for education equity. At the table that I was at, we discussed human resources and hiring practices and all those kind of things. I just want to acknowledge the forum and the organizers and thank them for the opportunity to come together with community to talk about these important issues and discuss some ideas moving forward. And I look forward to bringing some of the conversations that we had at that table to the board committees in the future for discussion. I move the Human Resources Committee report for May 2018.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Member Sandstead. Any discussion? No discussion? All right. Then all in favor of accepting the HR. Oh, Member Gorham.
To be clear, I was anticipating perhaps there might be some discussion on the hourly wage rates for hourly employees. We would be approving those right now, is that correct?
That's what you'd be doing.
Member Swartz, okay. Member Swartz, would you like to, or Mr. Swartz, could you like to address that?
Yes, by accepting the human resource report, you would be accepting those wage rates.
Thank you, sir.
No. Part of the report. Turn this back up.
Yeah, this does not require a resolution for that, but you're accepting and agreeing to increasing those rates.
Member Lowfold.
Well, then I'd like to pull item 3 on the human resource report and have a conversation on that.
All right. Anyone else? Go ahead. Member Lowfold.
Gorham's got his mic. Okay. So on the approval of the hourly wage rates, yeah, that's a tongue twister. I just have some concern about moving forward with that tonight. I know that you've worked hard on answering our questions, of working with Member Oswald to show us what those rates would look like and who would be affected. But tonight I just don't feel like moving forward and approving those 10-cent raises is something I'm willing to do right now. We have increased the minimum wage $1.75 over the last 3 years. That they have gotten a $1.75 raise over the last 3 years. So that's one of my concerns, is that we have worked with it. I know there's still minimum wage. My second concern is that there are companies and school districts across the country that hire that position at a minimum wage position. That's what they're called. So if I apply at a company and I'm applying for a job that has a job description, I'm applying for that position and it's set on the salary that it's a minimum wage salary. And right now, that's what we're doing. The third reason I can't move forward with it at this time is that I just don't know it just seems like who we're giving the raise to is random. And if we set this as a precedent, then I don't know what the unintended consequences are. I worry about the random selection we have. It seems like it's not going by job description. It's going more by people who have been in our district or who serve our district well. And I appreciate that. But I still don't know. I don't want to give raises to some that then others come across and say, why are we giving a raise? I feel like I fit that category, but I'm not given the 10-cent raise. You've worked hard to show us who would get the 10-cent raise, so I know you've worked at it, but I still feel like even when you have chatted with us about who would all get it, it seems like that it just doesn't seem as concrete as I would like it. Lastly, I'm not going to support this because I really feel that when we listened to Tim Swirsky and Linda Kinnear explain it to us, it felt like it was going to be a lot of work for our payroll to determine who's getting what on what week. And we've continually cut our payroll department. We've continually cut our human resources. And I know this isn't the strongest reason to not support this resolution, but it is as part of my concern is that I work in the district. I get a payroll check, and I see how many levels of pay I receive for the many different jobs I'm doing. And I realize that the people sitting in front of us in clerical that we heard tonight, those are the people staying late, long past their 8 hours, to make sure we get paid. Because we're going to create another level of responsibility, at least in my field. And so until I feel, and I guess what I'd be also saying is that I would be willing to continue to work on this issue as a board member.
Member Oswald.
Thank you. Having worked on this issue since January and in years prior, when I've asked for wages for all people on this sheet, and I've been on boards that haven't passed it, it's not a random selection of people. It is the people who we employ that are not substitutes on this sheet. That's who's getting raises. That's what's been explained to us even tonight by Ms. Kinnear. It is not a lot of work for HR. In fact, this is the least amount of work that we could have possibly come up with out of any scenario that we hashed out over many, many brainstorm sessions. Ms. Kinnear reassured me it might take an hour. So I find it very curious that there's objections to a dime because our city is fighting for a $15 minimum livable wage. That's $5 to $6 more than what these positions pay for, and that's exactly about these positions, yet we're arguing about a dime. To me, that doesn't make any sense. I support $15 hour minimum wages because these are exactly the people that need that. We can work on raising all the other wages on the page too. There's nothing stopping us except our own will, and we can continue to do so. That shouldn't stop the work that's already done. We've already postponed this a couple months, and that's that. I'm voting for it because I believe in it. I don't want to be that person in the community that wants to keep people stuck at the least amount they can possibly get paid.
Member Trinka.
Thank you. I want to echo gratitude for all. I know that there's a lot of work that went into this on the part of HR staff and Member Oswald, so I want to thank you for that. One of the pieces that was helpful clarifier for me was part of our discussion last week was that we, because we had asked, can we give more money? I mean, these are people who, I think about the playground monitors at our son's school and the commitment that they have to the work that they do, and part of it is just, as I think Beth McCuskey mentioned earlier, is just about recognizing the talents of all the folks who work for our district. So this doesn't have to be the end of this conversation, but I think it's a really important first step in acknowledging the hard work that these folks put into supporting us across our district. So I will be supporting this.
Member Sandstead.
I'm also going to vote in favor. This is a very small increase. I listened to the discussion from last week's meeting, and I actually listened to the month before too. It was discussed then, but there was some mention of the option of doing steps as a future possibility for, say, I'm not going to use the puppeteer example because it's adorable, but that's not really what we're talking about here. But let's say a crossing guard. Crossing guard who's been working for us for 10 years is still at the same level as my understanding. And so to have some steps where I think the original intent when Member Oswald raised this issue months and months ago was kind of an affirmation to folks who have remained with us and continue to serve our students and staff. And I think we should do that. I think we should find a way to say, okay, you've stuck around, here's how we're going to set up some system of increase. And I would probably make it easier and just do everybody who's not under contract to just keep it simple and fair across the board. But I'm going to vote in favor of this tonight.
Anyone else? Member Gorham.
I'm honestly a bit conflicted over this one. I definitely do see the point of some folks who have been in the same position for several years kind of not receiving that recognition or a pat on the back in a way that this would help to accomplish. I think there's value in that to our staff in making that kind of a statement. The people who work for our school district are very valuable and important all across the board. You know, with this proposal, it's been kind of a winding road, as I understand, and started in one place and wound up here. And for several reasons, which I don't need to rehash right now, but it also happens to be a time where we're going through significant deficits. We're working to maintain and keep people on staff. The increase is a meager $5,000, though, so I acknowledge that that's in the face of what we're facing, that is not a ton. These are just all the things that I guess go through my mind. It's going to certainly send a message to these folks, but it's going to send a message to other folks as well. So these are my thoughts. These are why I'm conflicted. I am internally feeling like I'm leaning towards supporting this, though.
Member Lofald.
So again, I'm always worried when we seem to make decisions too that are with people, and then they're gonna when this either is supported or not supported, then it seems like, well, you're not supporting my work ethic or my job. You don't respect that, and that's not why I'm voting this down to. I'm voting no because one, you know. Again, we talked about this earlier too, about 10 cents is almost like a slap in the face because it's not a lot. We've worked, you know, to have higher, and now we're trying to give them something, some message that we approve them. Well, I get frustrated with that from a board level because then when we not vote for it, then somehow, and I can take the pressure, I can take the responses from people who are working in those positions. But I still don't like setting that precedent or setting that up to be kind of well, you support the playground workers and you give them 10 cents. I agree with Member Gorham that we are in a crisis, a budget crisis. We're in deficit. And I know it's 10 cents and I know but it is the perception. And we've all spent a lot of years in this community. And we know perceptions get blown away, and they are their reality. And so if we move to accept this hourly rate, I think people are going to assume that we are irresponsible with our finances, even though it's minimal. Because I don't think the paper will pick up how much it's really minimal. They will pick up that we're giving a raise to hourly workers because we love them and because we want to show them support. Well, I love them and I want to show them support, but it doesn't always have to be the 10-cent raise. And I have to point out, too, that there are other positions that are getting a 10-cent raise that are above the minimum wage. And so we are also then increasing our career center people who are already at $12.50 to another 10 cents, which is which isn't minimum wage. So I don't want it, to think that these are only the $9.65. There are other positions that we're giving the 10-cent raise. And then that makes me wonder why we're not giving the health assistant the raise. And again, I still just have questions. I could say this is because I'm a new board member and I'm just not sure of I'm kind of like Josh, I'm conflicted, so what am I going to vote? I researched this, I looked at this, I read this, I talked to other districts. We are not out of line with other districts at $9.65. And right now, I just don't feel comfortable with our finances and just with the points that I've gotten. They've gotten a raise over the last 2 years. That's something. And I think that there are other people on this list that we open ourselves up to for raises.
Member Lefferts Kemp?
Yes. I share some of the same thoughts that Member Gorham shared about being conflicted on this because I feel we all value on this board our employees. We value our employees. We value paying our employees well, giving them additional benefits. I know like the cafeteria monitors, for example, get a free lunch. And, so we value our employees. My concern with this is it feels like we're kind of picking and choosing who we're giving a raise to. I feel like it needs to be more systematic. Frankly, I feel almost disingenuine giving a 10-cent raise. I would like to see it higher. And it just really feels disingenuine. And so I'd like to keep the conversation going, but I'd like to keep it going with across the board with the list that we've been talking about increase. That's higher, but it's not just kind of picking and choosing which staff we're giving a very minimal increase to, and I want it to be more systematic.
Superintendent.
When Member Member Lafleur-Kemp mentioned the cafeteria meals, I know that was a budget investment from last year, and it's a good reminder for us to follow up to see how many people are actually taking us up on that. I know that the investment amount was $30,000 to be able to provide lunches for the monitors, and so that could be an area that if it's not being well utilized, that we could make some changes there to change some payments to. Just another piece.
Thank you. Member Oswald?
I feel like I can't win because for 2 years I asked that we increase everybody on the sheet, and now the reasons are being given that it's not everybody on the sheet. And then we explain exactly how hourly people were removed from the substitutes, and that's the only reason it looks so random. And so then I'm told, oh, it's random, but it's not random. I don't know what to do anymore. A dime is a slap in the face, but a dime is still better than nothing. Period. Ask any person that's on here that is going to get a raise that should with this pass, they're going to appreciate that. What they're not going to appreciate is knowing that they had the opportunity to get a little tiny thank you in a dime an hour, and instead they got to work for a dime less and go, thanks, I don't really matter. I don't think that's right. I think we as a board have had opportunities to talk about this for 5 months. 5 months, and it was delayed a month. I was ready to vote on this last month, but we needed more time to talk about it. So I waited patiently, and yet these issues were not spoke about at the committee meetings. I am a bit insulted personally that I've worked so hard with our HR staff. And the reasons why it moved from a step system down to this is because we accommodated the desires for HR staff's time and methods of implementation and how they could make it work in the easiest possible way. I want it to be different than this, but this is a compromise, and it's not perfect. So I don't know what's left to do, except I'm voting yes, and we'll see what happens.
Member Lofald.
So again, I'll reiterate as well that I don't like the setup of, them against us type of voting, and I know we're passionate about the things that we pilot, and but the other thing I somewhat am, I'm going to go back to that newbie role, even though I don't like when I'm referred to, or there's a lot of reference to these new board members that need speed and get up. But I'm just trying to learn also the role of trying to investigate the topics we discuss. And I am frustrated, even though we've been on the board for 4 months, I think. Our conversations sometimes I feel are stilted, or they're just because we don't know a lot. So we ask a lot of questions, and then we have to go back and kind of rethink about it. So I apologize, Member Oswald, if you feel like I haven't asked a lot of questions. I'm trying. But the other thing, too, that I worry about is that I'm not really feeling that this policy or this proposal came from either the workers or you. And I wonder about why, when proposals come to us as a school board, that they come from a member, that this was your passion. Did it? I mean, other than a worker came to us last time and spoke to us on that. I have not really gotten a lot of communication from our workers or from our HR. I mean, this did not come from some groundswell of support and desire. And I worry about that. I worry about that. That being said, I would entertain a movement to table it until we know where our budget comes in. That would be an option. It's not like I'm voting against it, and I know that's frustrating that you have delayed this. But I'm also, I could, make a resolution to table this, or a parliamentary procedure to table this, and if it's seconded, and we could revisit this again.
Member Leffler-Kemp.
Yeah, I had a couple questions, and I think that given some of the concerns that are being raised now, that tabling it to make sure we're comfortable with it is a good thing. And I guess I've always been a believer that kind of good decisions do take time sometimes, and it's, we can't always give, that in 2 months we should be passing things. Good decisions take good process, and that's where I've been struggling with this, is that I still feel like it's not looking kind of holistically at our hourly substitutes and our hourly pay rate, and so I have one question for you, Mr. Swordsky. Are there people not on this list who make the same rate or less? Or Linda? That question kind of came up as this conversation.
This would be our fairly complete list of hourly people, especially the ones that are at that minimum wage that are impacted the most.
Okay.
We have other non-bargaining people, but they are not on this, and they operate separately. So.
Okay.
So, Superintendent?
So I'm asking for clarification. That sounded like a no but yes.
We talk about the term non-bargaining. They're positions that are approved. They're an hourly rate. but they're generally more than this 12 to 14 hours a week positions. So when we were talking about are there other hourly positions out there that are not on here or not included, yes, they are. They're generally more than 12 or 14 hours, and they're generally more than minimum wage. They're higher than that.
So some of the people on this list are above minimum wage, making 12, 14 an hour. Are they? I guess what I'm asking is, are there people that make these rates or below these rates that wouldn't be getting a raise that aren't on this list? That's what I'm trying to see. Who are the stakeholders in this, and who might feel like they were left out, because that sounds like one of the main concerns. So I'm just trying to get to if that's a fact of this or not.
So the individuals on this list are the substitutes and hourlies that are working, dependent upon which bargaining unit they would fall into based upon hours. They are working less than what would put them into the bargaining unit. So for example, the paraprofessionals that are listed on here, the health LPN substitutes, the special ed substitutes, they're working 12.5 hours or less, because if they worked more than that, we would have to post the position and it would be a bargaining unit position. So these are substitutes and hourly individuals who are not working at a level to get them into a bargaining unit. We do have 4 individuals in the community ed area that are considered non-bargaining, and up until recently our I-specs were also considered non-bargaining, but they recently unionized. Those individuals, those 4 individuals, are not paid less than, they're actually paid more than what is on here, and they're in a non-bargaining unit type of a unit. They're not hourly substitutes, so they're not on this sheet, if that helps.
Last question, I promise. So are there people in bargaining units who make less than this?
No. The lowest in our bargaining units, I think, would be within the food service area. That would be the lowest ones that we would see, that are 11 something. I just don't have that off the top of my head.
Well, it's less than some of these.
Less than some, but you got to realize that there's classifications here. So there's groups that are community ed, there's groups that food service. So if you look in food service, the only one there that would be coming in at what would be considered a bargaining unit level would be the retiree from that unit that would generally be a manager, have been a manager and made more than that amount that was on there when they were truly the manager. They're coming back in and helping to sub in a sub capacity for us when our managers are out. So each group classification there, they are not making more than what is being made within the bargaining unit.
Thank you.
Member Gorham.
I just want to make a point of clarification as the Human Resources Committee Chair that this has been on the radar for 5 months, the 5 months that I've been on the board. However, the first 3 months, it's been in future items because there's continued ongoing work to explore the topic and the issue and come up with a solution and bring it to the board. And there was really nothing firmly in place until April. As chair of that committee, I've always provided opportunity to ask questions and bring things up if there were updates, and there were none the first 3 months.
We update it every month.
I'm not here to debate. That's what I'll say. This decision for me isn't about winning. It's about doing the best thing for all of our staff and employees in the district and all of our students. That's what we have to base our decisions on. That's what we're charged with. I think that coming to light that there are some folks in these positions working at greater than minimum wage, significantly greater than minimum wage, could we table this and find a way to have a greater impact on those staff and employees who are working at minimum wage? Because that's where we need to move the needle on increasing livable wage. And, you know, if this is frustrating, I'm okay with that. If this is slowing things down, I'm okay with that because it's going to get us to a better place.
Are you making a motion to to definitely postpone? I'm sorry. Member Lowfold.
Yeah, I had also put that on the table, but I didn't make it in a formal amendment or a resolution. Does it need to be an amendment?
A motion to definitely postpone this item?
I have not written it down, so it doesn't exist yet.
Okay, so is definitely postpone different than tabling?
Table is to the end of the meeting. Definitely postpone is to a subsequent meeting.
Okay.
So if you want to do it, postpone it until definitely, you can say indefinitely, that's who knows, and somebody has to bring it up again. If you say definitely postpone till next month, then it would be brought up next month.
Can I ask one more question before we definitely postpone? Or I make a resolution? Or not? We have to, I haven't made the motion yet.
Made the motion yet. Well, you just did. No, I was asking her if she was making one.
And I could go ahead and do that as well, because I think that that's where at least I'm hoping to go. But I do want to ask Linda and Tim whether or not you support this. Is that a fair question? You are the ones that have this, or is that not a fair question?
Perhaps it would be what would be the consequences, intended or unintended, that you can foresee. Nobody knows for sure.
You're kind of backed into a corner on this one. As we mentioned, the young lady who spoke at the other meeting would have been impacted by this 10-cent, and she was sort of furious that it wasn't moving forward at that meeting. However, I do believe you would have other people who, why did these people get this much, the haves and the have-nots? So it's kind of a no-win. I think that the ideal that we've pitched all along is if we could apply it to the whole schedule, and I want to say that, but then we've kicked that down the road for 2 years now. That we could incorporate it into our budgeting system. I think, this is off the top of my head, I think that total figure was around 20,000 or 25,000 if we applied it to the whole schedule. And that would be, for us to recommend, that would be ideal. Now, is that the most practical given the budget situations? I wouldn't want to say that or not, but I do think maybe there are some other ways we could explore. For instance, on this meal situation, if there were some dollars that weren't appropriately being utilized.
Linda?
So maybe I should just try to help you understand how we got to this particular document, if that would help. So the original proposal, and Member Oswald can certainly correct me, but from my recollection, the original proposal was for hourly, not substitutes. And the proposal was to have it such that individuals who had been with the district for a period of time would receive an increase. And the challenges that presented, which we talked about at some meetings, was how do you identify who and what length of time, and if they don't work for a period of time, then are they now back to the bottom, and how would we structure that? But the original request was for HR to work directly with Member Oswald to provide Member Oswald with the data that she needed to come back to the board. And to be only for hourly. So we looked at just the hourly individuals. We didn't go through and look at the substitutes because that wasn't the original request. And then when we started trying to look at the steps, it was going to become a very manual process because we do not have automated electronic timesheets. And so we have manual timesheets that are entered by hand, that are filled out by hand. And so that's how we got to the group that you're seeing here, is because we focused only on those. And the information that's provided was the information that was asked for. It wasn't coming up from, and I don't remember which board member it was that said, from the bottom as a groundswell. The request came from the board. The request came for the board to work with HR to come up with what could be some type of looking at what could we potentially do for hourly. So if that helps the board.
Thank you. Member Oswald?
Thank you, Ms. Kinnear. I think that sums that up very nicely. And it also speaks to the fact that we updated the board every month since January. And this was at the direction of our previous board before the new members were sitting, where I have been pushing this. Yes, it comes from me because I value our lowest paid workers, and my mom was one of them. And this is kind of what I'm doing out of the goodness of my heart, because I wouldn't want my mom to have retired from here making minimum wage, and the person that replaced her when my mom died retired in that job making minimum wage. And that's completely unacceptable. And that's my drive for this.
Member Lofeld.
I make a resolution to table this until we can look at what our budget is, and it seems to. Well, I suppose I can't editorialize.
I'm going to interpret that
okay.
as an indefinite.
Indefinite.
Indefinite postponement.
Postponement. So that we can further our conversation, because if lunch costs $30,000, and Tim Swirsky said this, giving everyone minimum wage would be between 25 and 30, then maybe we can look even into that aspect, take the lunch away, but then give everyone the raise.
Is there a second to that? Second. Seconded by Member Gorham. So it's been moved by Member Lofeld and seconded by Member Gorham to indefinitely postpone this particular item.
A motion to indefinitely postpone kills the measure. It's like voting no.
We can't bring it up on the vote. Well, we can take a brief respite here. We'll look it up.
Can you I'll confirm that she wants to indefinitely?
You want?
So, in my
give her the light.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry.
So can I make a resolution to
a
motion to indefinitely postpone this till the June meeting or the July meeting?
That would be definite postponement.
That would be definite.
Indefinite. So you could say definite till June.
So if I put indefinite, it would mean that we would have to put it on the agenda in the next few months. Somebody would have to make it an agenda item. It would not just automatically.
Correct. This, according to Robert's Rules of Orders, newly revised, 11th edition, postpone indefinitely as a motion that the Assembly decline to take a position on the main question. Its adoption kills the main motion for the duration of the session, which would be this session, and avoids a direct vote on the question.
And what's a resolution definite that way I put a date to it?
Then we would not vote on it now, and we'd bring this up again at whatever definite date you would move to consider.
So I'm going to move to place this on an indefinite, because then as a board member, we can bring it forward again when we're ready to do that.
Okay. Is there a second to that?
It has been
seconded by Member Gorham. Now the question is, can we debate this?
Yes.
Always that.
Is debatable.
Is debatable. So is there any discussion on this? Member Oswald.
I'd just like to point out the irony that I've always been the one that brought it up, and you're just requesting that I bring it up again.
Member Lofald.
And I am encouraged to bring it up again. I want to continue the conversation. I think it's unfair as a board that we pit each other against our personal passion, because I'm passionate about giving raises to people and valuing people, but I want to make sure that what I do that it is done in a way that I feel that I'm working for all of us, all of our staff and students, and I just want more time. So I just really want our conversation to continue, and if that means that Member Oswald puts it on our agenda again, I want her to be assured that I will feel that that's a good thing, that you're working in the way that you want to, and if we can get more clarity so that I'm more clear on my vote, I will then support it, which will be a win-win when we get there.
All right, one last comment, Member Oswald.
I would need more direction from the board as to how you want it differently and what you'd want to see, because I've made it as simplistic as possible with the help of our HR staff and what their capabilities are. So I wouldn't know how to bring it up because it would be exactly the same thing.
Member Trinka.
I just want to make a quick clarifying statement that this pay raise would not go into effect until July 1st, correct? And so we do have a little bit of a window there. What is the anticipated setup it would require for your HR staff to get this?
The July 1st would be the beginning of the new fiscal year, so that's what it's scheduled for. The majority of these workers, although not all of them, probably would not start until that August. But there would be some food service, well, the food service is not on there. There is the potential to have some of these workers that are working in the summer months.
So if we were to vote on it today, no one would see a raise on their paycheck until
Correct.
July 1st, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Member Lefler-Kemp.
Thank you, Member Trinka, for kind of clarifying the opportunity we have to continue to discuss this because of the timing. I'm going to suspect that because of the discussion that the board has had, our staff, our professional staff that are sitting here will take into consideration the pros and cons and questions that we as a board have as well. And that may help a future discussion on this. Just kind of knowing some of the concerns that we have and wanting us to look more holistically at these hourly wages.
Member Lofald.
And I just want to comment, too, that I don't think that the proposal will look much different, Member Oswald. I really don't. I don't think you're going to bring, when the proposal comes back on our agenda, I don't expect it to look much different. But it will give me a chance to, I did research minimum wage, and I know that the minimum wage has gone up the last couple of years. There's some proposals in 2019 for minimum wage again to go up. There are people pushing for that $15. So part of me says I'm not looking for it to be any different. I just want to continue this conversation, and I don't want it to be seen as a vote that, I don't want it to be seen as I'm voting no against the 10-cent raise. I also think it'll give us some time to look at the budget. Governor Dayton is maybe going to give us some emergency money to help in other areas so that we might feel a little bit more comfortable, or the perception in our community will be that we're giving a 10-cent raise, even though it's not as much as we want, but we do have some relief from the budget due to some other monies coming in, and then I would feel much more engaged in doing that. So I just want to table it for more from me, because then I think I can support it, and then that would be a great thing going forward.
Member Oswald, briefly, then I think we should vote on this.
Budget isn't really a reason to do this, but if delaying it a month is what it's going to take to get it to pass, that's fine. I'm still going to vote against tabling it because I don't see the point of rehashing this hour-long conversation again. But we all choose to make investments in our budget, and this is the tiniest little scrap on a budget line item in a $136 million budget. That's not even a blip on the radar. So our budget has chosen investments in it, and investing in our lowest paid workers and in those that work the least amount of hours is something I'll always support.
All right, seeing no other lights, we have a motion to postpone indefinitely the hourly substitute pay rate. Pay rate what? Pay rate decision. Increase. All in favor of indefinitely postponing this, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
So there are 2 noes. Member Oswald and Member Trinka voted no. And Member Gorham, Sandsted?
I voted no.
You voted no, 3 noes. I vote yes.
Yes.
So it passes 4-3 to postpone indefinitely. And so next we have the Human Resources report. That was moved and seconded earlier, I believe.
Yes.
Is there any further discussion on the HR report? Seeing none, all in favor of accepting the HR report, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Then that passes unanimously. Thank you. Next, we go on to the Business Committee report. I can find it. Can't. It's not there. I have to find it on my computer first. I don't know where it is. I'll go back here. Member Trinka, why don't you go ahead?
Thank you, Chair. I'm a little concerned our 260-page Business Committee report, how long that's going to take if it took us an hour. But for the record, when it was 239 pages, it took us 4 hours. So let's endeavor to move a little bit faster than that. I am going to ask for some patience and some support from those of you who are here with me, because there is a lot to get through. And I'm going to try my best to move forward with things and then allow people to pull items off that they want to specifically comment on, rather than really going into all of the nuts and bolts. But also that our staff were here. I'm going to look for some help on that front as well. So we had a really robust discussion, 4 hours worth, which was great. And I appreciate everyone's patience and willingness to be a part of that. Let's see. We had a discussion, certainly as we do every month, around the financial report, acceptance of payments, some budget revisions that I believe have even maybe been revised since last week, perhaps. Am I right? I believe some of us got, I think that, but it should be updated in board book. So the budget revision should be included in there. One of the exciting pieces that was a part of the financial report. Thank you so much for being with us.
Good luck. Yes, our student reps have to study.
And good luck on your AP exams. That our APU projections are actually up as opposed to budget, so we certainly are encouraged by that. We had a discussion around the lunch meal price increase and understanding some of the rationale behind that to move the price from $3.75 to or $3.85 to $4 to comply with MDE and USDA regulations. So we were thankful to have appropriate staff here for that conversation as well. In terms of bids and RFPs, we had a good conversation about pizza, which I don't think we want to spend too much time talking about right now because it's going to make me really hungry. But it, again, was a good conversation around, I think it's always helpful for all of us to understand how the district makes their recommendations around sending out RFPs, but then also I appreciate the spreadsheets that indicate the different categories that the vendors who respond to our RFPs check off. So thank you for those. As always, we had robust conversations around contracts and quotes, and so learned about vehicle fuel requirements. And we had conversations around service to boilers and how, again, how we assess those contracts. Thank you, as always, for your patience with us as we're learning the ropes on that. Lots of projects that are in the works, and so thank you to the facilities and maintenance team for putting together a lot of quotes that we will be voting on tonight, right? Let's see. We then had a really good conversation around policies and regulations, and this is probably where I'm going to need a little bit of help, reminding which ones we were considering tabling and which ones we were not. So looked at Policy 212 around school board member development and travel and expense reimbursement. We're pleased with some of the changes that were made, but still a little bit confused about process. Also had a good conversation around the data request policy, and I want to thank all the folks who have reached out to school board members as well to discuss some of their concerns and offer suggestions, more importantly, around ways to ensure that our data request policies are conform, but also aren't overly burdensome for either staff or for community members who are seeking that information. Do we vote on that now? No, we're going to do it later. Okay. Let's see. Changing the bylaws around school board officers to be more in line with what the responsibilities of folks actually are, so that, for example, our treasurer, Member Gorham, isn't running checks to the bank every week or twice a week. In fact, that work is currently being covered by our district staff, and we're very appreciative for that. I think that there were some, well, we'll get to it later. Let's see. Looking at, oh man, there's so much in here. Again, so similar to duties of the clerk, duties of the chair, and as I mentioned, duties of the treasurer. Moving down to contracts, change orders, and leases, we had a conversation about a vendor who was brought to us by Mr. Hassler, the Eric Ryan Corporation. And the Eric Ryan Corporation is a company that, and forgive me if I get this wrong, CFO Hassler, but it's a company that essentially comes in and does an audit of our electrical and telecom services to identify opportunities for us to potentially save money if, for example, there are redundant phone lines. And then the Eric Ryan Corporation would take 25% of the savings that they identify within 1 year of when the contract gets signed. In subsequent conversations with Mr. Hassler, they are not willing to compromise on that 25%. According to the research that was provided, the industry standard on that what they can recoup is anywhere from 25 to 50%, and so this group comes in on the lower end. I am happy to say, though, that they were willing to make the change in the contract in terms of if we were to go to arbitration, it would be moved to St. Louis County so that we're not dealing with attorneys in Arizona or wherever they were, not in Minnesota, Pennsylvania. Yep, we don't need to find a Pennsylvania lawyer. So I'm anticipating we'll have conversations around that. Acceptance of donations, again, moving down to the resolutions. Delegation of treasurer and clerk duties.
You have to read the
Pardon?
Acceptance of donations.
Oh, I have to read all of them, that's right. Okay, here we go. I highlighted them and I then didn't read them, so now I have to find them. My apologies. Thank you, Member Oswald. I said I was going to need help tonight. Okay, so the first is, let's see, resolution, I can't see the number on here. Oh, it's at the bottom. Okay, B-5-18-3542, acceptance of donations to Duluth Public Schools. Whereas Minnesota Statute 465.03 requires a school district to accept donations by resolution expressed in the terms prescribed by the donor in full. And whereas acceptance of the donations in accordance with the donor's terms is in the best interest of Duluth Public Schools, now therefore be it resolved that the Duluth Public Schools does accept the below described donations from said organizations in accordance with the terms set forth herein. Be it further resolved that the Duluth Public Schools wishes to extend its grateful appreciation to these various individuals and organizations. So I move resolution B-5-18-3542.
Second.
Seconded by Member Sandstead. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of this resolution B-5-18-3542, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously.
All right. The next resolution is B-5-18-3543. Delegate the duties of treasurer and clerk. I guess where we're putting our emphasis on our syllables is off for both Member Gorham and myself tonight. Whereas Member Statutes 123B-.14 specifies the duties of board officers, including the clerk and treasurer. Whereas the duties of the clerk and treasurer, as defined by Minnesota statute, incorporate operational responsibilities, the regular performance of which are not practical for a board officer. Whereas Minnesota statutes 123B.14 subdivision 1 provides that the persons who perform the duties of the clerk and treasurer need not be members of the board. Therefore, be it resolved that the School Board of Independent School District 709 appoints the Executive Director of Business Services to serve as deputy clerk and as designated to perform the duties of the clerk, and the finance manager to serve as deputy treasurer and is designated to perform the duties of the treasurer. The deputy clerk and the deputy treasurer are authorized to delegate tasks associated with these duties as they determine to be necessary and practical. So I move resolution B-5-18-3543.
Seconded by Member Lofald. Any discussion on this? Member Oswald.
Thank you. I looked up our organizational meeting, and I believe this resolution conflicts with the appointment of deputy clerk from our organizational meeting. And then there's resolutions for designation of depositories and acceptance of collateral and the authority to perform electronic fund transfers. So how does this mesh with what we did back then?
Mr. Hassler.
I looked at the organizational agenda as well. I did not see a resolution for the appointment of a deputy clerk. There was an agenda item specific to that, but there was no language behind it. And from my perspective, Minnesota statute lays out a process to appoint a treasurer and a clerk, and it also specifies that those duties can be delegated pursuant to the statute and to do so through a resolution. So absent a resolution, I think this delegation is not consistent with the statute. And so my recommendation, for what that's worth, probably not a lot, my recommendation is that to comply with the statute, a resolution structured like this is appropriate. Now, action that was taken in the organizational meeting, I think, is subject to modification by action of the board at a later time. And I would submit that is within the authority of the board to do so tonight. I would also submit that if this resolution is acceptable to the board, that in the future or our organizational day meeting would include a resolution with language along the lines of what you see here.
I may be mistaken, but I thought we appointed Ms. Dolan's deputy clerk at our organizational meeting, did we not? In January? Okay. You got appointed something, just maybe it's the school board secretary, I guess. I don't know, but I remembered you getting appointed something in there. But so these resolutions that authorize the director of business services specifically, just because we have them, I don't read them as conflicting necessarily with the resolution appointing you as board clerk, but it's more redundant that as deputy clerk, these are your job duties. So I don't know how to clean it up. I don't know if it's necessary now. I'm just pointing out that it's there. That's what I know.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, it's been moved and seconded to, we should vote on Resolution B5, 183543. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It passes unanimously. Oh, sorry.
Okay. All right, our next resolution is B-5-18-3544, and I really appreciate, Peggy, your work on spelling this out so that we have a little bit of better understanding what it is. The release and pledge of collateral. Be it resolved by the School Board of Independent School District number 709, St. Louis County, Minnesota, that it hereby releases the $500,000 par value first home owner rate note. Committee on Uniform Security Identification Procedures number X'd out KG7, pledges collateral by Harbor Point Credit Union. Be it further resolved by the school board that it accepts the pledge collateral of a $500,000 par value Federal National Mortgage Association note maturing March 29th of 2019, QSIP number EB7, in exchange for the released collateral noted above. So I move resolution B-5-18-3544.
Second.
Seconded by Member Gorham. Any discussion on this?
Can you give us just a quick snippet on what this means again? Because I know you told us the other day, and I appreciated your explanation, so I'm thinking that other folks will appreciate that today as well.
Thank you.
Sure. Because the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation only insures deposits up to $250,000, any deposits that we have over above that amount at one institution, we are required to have that institution pledge collateral in the event that they would have any default on their account. So we have greater than $250,000 at the Harbor Point Credit Union, so we are required to have them pledge collateral in support of our deposits.
Thank you. Any discussion on this? Seeing none, all in favor of Resolution B-5-18-3544, say aye. 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 Opposed? Aye. It passes unanimously.
Okay, next is Resolution B-5-18-3545, designation of the superintendent as the identified official with authority, or Iowa, for Minnesota Department of Education serves financial. Whereas the Minnesota Department of Education requests that school districts annually designate the superintendent as the identified official with authority for the MDE External User Access Recertification System. The identified official with authority is responsible for assigning job duties to the appropriate school district staff and authorizing access to MDE secure systems. This annual review and designation of the superintendent as identified official with authority is in accordance with State Access Security Standard 1.0. Resolved by the School Board of Independent School District 709, St. Louis County, Minnesota, that the superintendent of schools be designated the legal authorized representative to serve as the 2018-2019 identified official with authority for MDE serves financial for the school district. So I move Resolution B-5-18-3545.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Member Sandstead. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of this resolution, say aye. Aye. Opposed? It passes unanimously.
These are the things they don't tell you about when you're campaigning for school board. That's great. All right. Now moving on to Resolution B-5-18-3546. We're ready for this? Authorizing the sale of Hartley Field school property. Whereas the school district owns 23.64 acres of undeveloped property adjacent to Hartley Park, and whereas the school district has no current or anticipated use for this property, and whereas district administration has entered into discussions with representatives of the city of Duluth as to a possible sale of this land to the city, whereas the city has been approved to receive land preservation grant funds from the state of Minnesota for the purpose of acquiring this property. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the School Board of ISD 709, Duluth, Minnesota, hereby authorizes the sale of real property described on Exhibit A, attached hereto, and be it further resolved, the School Board authorizes District Administration to negotiate a purchase agreement with the City of Duluth for the sale of the Hartley Field school property, and the School Board Chair is authorized to execute the purchase agreement and all other documents required for closing on the property sale transaction. So I move Resolution B-5-18-3546.
Second.
Seconded by Member Loeffler-Kemp. Any discussion on this? Seeing none. Member,
don't have an official purchase agreement yet. And so we wouldn't be able to share the terms because it's not secured. But.
So all in favor of accepting Resolution B-5-18-3546, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes unanimously.
Okay. So that we got through all the resolutions. Good work, team. And now we are moving on to, we discussed expenditure contracts that were signed, a lot of which were focused on different types of education, which is always great to hear. Let's see. 238 pages, jeez. Okay. Let's see. And then we had so we had another of other informational discussion topics, including some updates on the Facilities Management and Capital Projects Status Report, which is, as well as an update on the levy referendum, on legislative platform updates. We know that folks are working hard down in D.C. and certainly want to thank the elected officials from our school district who are really championing, supporting our Duluth Public Schools and the schools across our great state. So discussion around property sale updates, potential bond refunding, and then an update on where we're at in the budget process. We're anticipating having a lot of very robust discussions with the board and with administration and staff in the coming months ahead of the June full board discussion around the budget. So with that, I move the business committee report.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Member Gorham. Any discussion or Member Oswald?
I'd like to pull 3A and 6K.
3A, 6K. Okay. Bingo. Anyone else? Why don't you go ahead then with 3A?
As soon as I get there. I just wanted to point out quickly that for the second month in a row, we have this policy. I think we have a plan moving forward about how we're going to address using this policy. But I wanted to point out that at the very bottom of the page, on page 56, it says review. It was reviewed in April. And so that would need to be updated maybe. All right. That's all I got.
Why don't you go ahead with 6K then?
Let me get there again. Thank goodness for jumping pages, because it's at the end and not. I just want to make a comment about our long-term facility maintenance plan. We have our 10-year plan that is here, and I just wanted to make a comment that our list of projects vastly exceeds the amount of income that we have for the 10 years. It is, if I can find the space I wrote it in, I believe it's $39 million worth of updates, and that's about $13 million over what we get from what I understand. And of that $39 million, 25.5 million comes to us from trying to get this building into a functional state. Not upgrading it, not changing it, just fixing what's wrong with it. And yet again, I'll question openly whether our taxpayers in our city want us to take $25 million that we should be paying on upkeeping our schools and investing it into this building. I don't think that we're respecting this building like we should, and I think that we need to carefully consider if we want to make that investment in the future. The majority of these expenses don't come until later on in the 10-year plan, which is probably by design because we have more pressing needs in other buildings. We also have the eventual steam conversion to hot water heat that I'm really thankful to see. In fiscal year 19, we're budgeting to get some auditing services to prepare for letting us know what those will cost and what it's going to take to get this building up to snuff. So I don't know if that's an appropriate professional term, but it's late and I'm not going to talk anymore. So that's a lot of money, and I'm not sure we should spend it here.
Thank you. Any other comments, discussion? Seeing none, it's been moved and seconded to accept the Business Committee report. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Then that passes unanimously. I don't believe there are any special resolutions. Does anybody have any questions or anything else they would like to bring up before? There's been moved to adjourn by by Member Sandstead. Seconded by Member Oswald. No discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned unanimously.